Okay, friends, been getting a lot of requests for me to have a shareable video version of my inbound presentation, whether for those who were there in person and want to be able to review it or share it, or for those of you who couldn't be there. So I'm making a go of this. I'm just recording in Zoom. Let's go ahead and share my screen, and we will see how this goes. So this first session is implementing HubSpot. Things every HubSpot admin needs to know. This is part of a three-part series that I did at Inbound, three 45-minute sessions. The great thing about recording this and uploading it to YouTube is that I'm not limited to 45 minutes. So this may be sort of an extended director's cut version of this. But let's go ahead and hop right in. I'm Kyle Jepson. I assume if you don't know what I look like, you will by the end of the session. So here's the rest of me, my wife and 4 kids. We live here in Boston. I love HubSpot. I'm just crazy about this software. I'm so happy to take this time to share with you some things I think you ought to know about it. But if at any point you would like to talk to me about something other than HubSpot, HubSpot is not the only thing I love. Here are some other things. If you really want to get me talking, ask me about Joan of Arc. I'd love to tell you about the musical I'm creating. So here is the format we're going to follow in today's session. We've got these 3 main sections. We're going to start with implementing things at a platform level. These are things that apply to all of you, regardless of your subscription. Very important foundational elements of HubSpot architecture. Then we'll move to the core hubs, marketing, sales, and service. I figure if you have HubSpot, you have at least one of these and maybe more than one. And then we'll move on to this other stuff. Now, before we dive in, I've just got to, let's take a moment. Now, side note here, I gave this presentation almost immediately after the product keynote at Inbound. Breeze had just been announced. Everyone was reeling, wondering what it was. So this was my attempt at empathy. So we all just saw this product keynote. I would love to take a minute to talk about what we just saw. If I had to categorize the stuff Andy announced, I would put it into these categories here. Breeze is this new overarching term for HubSpot AI. I'm excited we have this term. Gives us a coherent narrative for talking about these features rather than them just being kind of a collection of unrelated features spread all over the platform. They are now grouped together in these 3 main categories. Breeze Copilot is just ChatSpot. It's been rebranded. It's got some new features. It's going to keep growing. It is now in-app instead of a separate website. But if you've used ChatSpot at all, you know what Copilot is. It's this little buddy that comes along with you in your HubSpot adventures, can help you with research, can help you build content. ChatSpot is now called Breeze Copilot. Breeze Intelligence, if you've been following along with HubSpot, you know we acquired Clearbit a year or so ago. This is the result of that. We have some cool data enrichment features that have all the power of Clearbit in them. We have a new buyer intent app that is in all subscriptions, I believe. Super exciting. Definitely play around with that. And then form shortening is this feature that's been put in Starter, where if someone's filling out a form, one of these multi-step forms, we can fill in forms in the background using Clearbit data so that they don't have to. They get a shorter form to fill out. You get all the data so they filled in a longer form. That's great. Breeze Agents is the totally net new thing. This is 2024 being 2024. This is HubSpot working for you. The content agent is a collection of some existing and some new features. If you've ever done like our AI blog post generator or our AI landing page generator, we also have an AI podcast episode generator. These are now grouped together into this thing called Content Agent. It's this agent that can build content for you. Customer Agent is the new name for the AI chatbot in Service Hub that we launched last spring. And then Social Agent and Prospecting Agent are 2 entirely new things that are coming soon. They are not out quite yet, but they're awesome, and you will definitely be hearing from me when they are live. And then there were a ton of new features, especially for Marketing Hub. Andy spent a long time talking about Marketing Hub, lots of new things happening there. And that's just the HubSpot we know and love. But really, all of this is the HubSpot we know and love. HubSpot is always growing, always changing. There's always going to be new things to talk about. That's why every year at Inbound, I can give a Things Every HubSpot Admin Needs to Know session or series. And they are different every year. Now, I will get to Breeze. That is on this outline. I think that's an important thing for us to discuss and explore, but let's start at the beginning. The foundations are unchanged. If you're going to implement HubSpot, you need to understand the architecture, and so let's start at the beginning and not get ahead of ourselves, no matter how excited or distracted we may be with this new Breeze stuff. So when we talk about data structures inside of HubSpot, there are 3 main things we're going to talk about. One is objects, one is associations, one is properties. Now, if you work in the ecosystem, or you talk to other HubSpot users, different people use the word object to refer to different things. I've put this chart together to kind of show how the functionality differs across all these things you might call objects. But rather than trying to memorize this chart or take a screenshot of it, please just download this objects cheat sheet I've created. It's a PDF that lays out all the object-like things inside of HubSpot, talks about their different features and capabilities, and gives my personal opinion about which ones we should call objects and which ones we shouldn't call objects. But it's focused around functionality, right? Your goals you might have as an admin. You don't really care if something is technically an object or not. You care if you can enroll it in a workflow, or if you can build a report in the custom report builder, or if you can build saved views in a filterable index page, right? And this resource will give you all that information organized by that functionality. But the big new thing when it comes to implementing objects is that there's this new library template. There are 3 ways you get objects inside of HubSpot now. There's still the default objects: contacts, companies, deals, tickets. You're going to have those no matter your subscription, whether you want them or not. There they are. They're built into HubSpot. And custom objects, which have been around for about 5 years now, at the enterprise level, you can define objects that do whatever you want. They can represent anything. Now there's this middle ground with this library and templates, and I think this is very important for you to know. So just briefly, when I say an object, I mean an object that gets an index page like this. Contacts, for example, has this nice index page. But if we go over to the settings page, there's this new, under data management, there's this new object library. And take a minute to ooh and ah over this. You have this, or can have it if you opt into the beta, whatever subscription you have. Even if you're just a free HubSpot user, you can now come in here. You can see contacts, companies, deals, and tickets. As I said, you have them whether you want them or not. Cannot uncheck these boxes. But if you want appointments, or if you want courses, or if you want listings, or if you want services, you can open these up and see what are included, the properties you're going to get, the associations that are going to be built, and you can see all the tools that will support this: APIs, import, export, workflows, lists, everything you would expect an object to do. And so if you want this services one, literally all you have to do is check the box, confirm that you want it. I now have services in this account. That easy. I've always said building custom objects in the HubSpot UI is easy. This is way easier, right? You're just checking a box. And if you decide, no, I don't want it, you can now uncheck that box. You can confirm it again, and now you get rid of it. This is wild. And this is in every HubSpot subscription. So if you need appointments, courses, listings, or services, just come in here, turn them on. No need to upgrade to enterprise and build some custom objects. You can just get these good to go. So that's available to all users. Those of you that are at the pro or enterprise level have an additional thing over in the data model overview. If you have not spent any time on this, I definitely recommend that you should. This is a visual layout of the objects you have inside of HubSpot. You can hover over them to see their connections. If you click on them, you get a color-coded readout of what they're associated with. You can click to view details. This is very useful for you as an admin, just to understand the architecture of your specific account. This view has been around for quite a while. What's new this year is a table view. I think this is even a little more useful for admins. If you want to see how many records you have and what tools they're using, you can see that here. But the thing I want to get at that's new is at the pro level, you can define data model with templates. So these are industry specific, right? If you are in real estate or if you're in education, you can click on one of these, right? We saw there's that listings object. And even if you're a free user, you can create that listings object and off you go. But look at this. If you're at the pro level, even easier than checking the box and getting an object added is this ability to just check and uncheck all these boxes for, do you want a listing agent association label between listings and contacts? Would you like these different role and buyer category custom properties? Would you like some pipelines for renters, buyers, and sellers? And if you don't have renters, right, you can uncheck that box, right? There are all these things you can do, and with just a couple clicks, you can add them. And now you're set up as a real estate shop. Similarly for education, I love this education one because you get a whole bunch. You get that courses object, but you get a whole bunch of association labels, right? Same object associations, contacts associated to each other as parent and student or teacher and student. This is really powerful. This is really great. There's also a healthcare one, but that is at enterprise because you have to be using HIPAA compliant stuff, which I will talk about in just a minute. But that is new. And if you are enterprise and you're going to be building custom objects, let me just show you that experience because I did say it is easy, and it is pretty easy. It's not as easy as checking a box, but it's a close second. So if you want to define a new custom object, you just click Create Custom Object, and you're going to give it a name in singular and plural because sometimes it's singular and sometimes it's plural, depending on where it shows in the UI. You're going to give it a primary display property and a secondary display property. And so if we come back over to the contacts page I was on before, For contacts, that primary display property, that is the name, right? That's right here. And for companies, it's the company name. And for deals, it's the deal name. This is basically the thing that identifies this particular record. And when you look at this 3-column record page, that primary display is right up here, right? And then secondary display properties are mostly displayed on these association cards. They'll appear here so you can see that also. I used to, as recently as last week, I used to say secondary properties, display properties on custom objects is the only way to add custom quick filters here. On this page, you have what are called quick filters. If you want to just see the records assigned to me or a particular user, or you want to filter by create date or last activity date, you can. But there was no way to customize these until just now. Look, there's now a more button. If you want to add literally any property, here is a cleverly named drop-down property I created. You can add that here, and now you can drop these down. So no need when you're creating your custom objects to include a secondary display property solely for the purpose of having it here. You can add these. If you click this Edit Quick Filters, you can remove the custom ones you added. And then these are view specific. And so for each of your different views, you can have different quick filters here. Just add them, click the Save button, and off you go. So that's the exciting news about objects. Let's talk about associations. Associations are the relationships between two different records. They can be different object types, or they can be the same object types. And when you as an admin come in and set these up, you have a few options you should really pay attention to. So if we just head over to, we'll go back to my custom objects. I have a custom object called pets. I also have a custom object called num-nums. Because why not? And if we want to talk about associations, for any object, not just custom objects, you can do this for contacts, companies, deals, whatever. You can come in here, you can set up labels, right? And an association label is when you have two records associated with each other, you're going to put a label on that to describe the relationship, right? So in the templates, we saw a listing agent is a relationship between a contact and a listing, right? We now know that person is the listing agent. We also saw two-sided labels for in the education one, right? This is a student, this is a teacher, this is a student, this is their parent. So when you create an association label, you can have just one, right? Kind of the standard label is primary, right? If I associate a contact to a company, this is that contact's primary company. But you could do a pair of labels. The example here is manager and employee. So you can really add color and understand if there's a directional aspect to this relationship. The other thing you as admins can do that is really helpful in certain cases is configuring association limits. So, right, num-nums are associated to pets. And a pet can have as many num-nums as it wants, especially if it's good boy, right? You just give that pet some num-nums, that's fine. What probably will work less well is if you try to give one num-num to more than one pet, right? And so pets, a num-num can only be associated to one pet. But a pet can be associated to as many num-nums as you care to give it, right? This is sort of a ridiculous example, but if your business operates in such a way that there are relationships sometimes where you expect there will be a one-to-one relationship or just one on this side and many on this side, you can enforce that here. Now, my general watchword to admins in general is not to add too many restrictions. You don't want people to get frustrated using your CRM. But if the reality is, for safety reasons at our kennel, num-num cannot be shared among pets, absolutely feel free to build that into your model here. And that can be really useful and helpful in a variety of ways. The last thing I want to talk about is properties, which I do not have time actually to talk about here. I've created in conjunction with some support reps here at HubSpot a properties cheat sheet. This is similar to the object cheat sheet. This will give you a rundown of a bunch of useful standard properties across different object types, all the different field types for when you're creating a custom property, and then also some recommendations based on data of the most common custom properties HubSpot customers are creating. Definitely recommend you take some time to look this over. The main thing I want to talk about in conjunction with properties today is sensitive data. Now, a year ago, if we had been at Inbound last year and you had asked me about storing sensitive data in HubSpot, I would have said, don't do it. It's against our terms of service. It could get you in legal trouble. Do not store sensitive data in HubSpot. That has changed dramatically in 2024. In spring, we came out with the ability to store general sensitive data and HIPAA data. And now at Inbound, we're releasing highly sensitive data into beta. So what do these things mean? These are kind of nested terms. Sensitive data is the broadest one. And at the most basic level, if you're storing sensitive data, it might be something like citizenship and immigration status, driver's license number, demographic information like race, sexual orientation, gender, age, just things that are a little more sensitive. You maybe want to protect a little more than something like someone's first name, right? That is the most basic level of sensitive data. Then above that, or sort of within it, if you're looking at these Venn diagrams here, is health data. And if you are if you are in the United States and you're storing health data, you need to be compliant with HIPAA. It's a US-based law. And as part of that, there are certain things HubSpot needs to do in the way we store this information. You need to sign a legal agreement with us. You need to mark certain properties as storing health data. We can support you in all of this now. It's very exciting. This is something we've never been able to do before. And it's new as of last spring. And then just this week being Inbound, I'm pretending I'm giving this talk at Inbound, even though it's a week later. We now have highly sensitive data. So things like bank account numbers, social security numbers in the US, international bank account numbers, things that you want tightly encrypted and protected, you can now store inside of HubSpot. This is in a beta, and anywhere these properties appear in HubSpot, they will have that password look of just ... You can't see them, and then you'll have to click view to view it, and then we log that in the audit logs. Every time you do that, we know you did it. We have a record of it, which is just going to be really important for you as you're handling highly sensitive data. So that's all I have time to talk about with properties today. Now that we've talked about the architecture of HubSpot, let's talk about how data gets into HubSpot. And there are two main ways. I mean, of course, some records will be created individually, but if you're implementing HubSpot and you have a bunch of records you're bringing in all at once, you're probably going to do that either through import or integrations. Now, importing, most software tools have some sort of import functionality, and there's usually not very much to say about it because it just doesn't do that much. HubSpot's importing tool is just incredible. The team that builds this thing is so passionate about giving you a really excellent experience as you're importing stuff. And so I just want to call out some of the things that you should know as an admin, if you're going to be importing stuff. First of all, you can import multiple things at a time, right? Let's say we want to do some contact companies and deals all at once. The thing that's really fun and interesting and subtle, you may not notice this, is there's this option to download an example file. This is going to be dynamic depending on what you select here. So if I select companies, contacts, and deals, and then come and download example file, I'm going to get an example file, a spreadsheet with columns for the required properties to create companies, contacts, and deals. And if I come back here and I unselect these and I just do contacts, now if I come here and click this, I'm going to get a different file that'll just have the contact related properties. This is super thoughtful little feature here. So anytime you're coming in to set things up, if you want to have a blank spreadsheet to start from that you know will import properly and map properly, come select the data sources you're importing and then come click this download example file button, and you will really, it'll save you a lot of time. Now let's go ahead and actually import a file here. It was right here on the top initially. I don't, maybe this is it. Shoot. I hope this is the one I want. We're gonna import this here. And there are some cool things you need to know about this screen. So what it's doing is it scans, I believe, the first 1,000 rows of your spreadsheet, which for most spreadsheets is going to be the entire spreadsheet. And it's going to tell you if there's enough information to create new records and also update existing records. And if not, it'll guide you through that process. Then it'll tell you if there are any errors row by row. So it was able to map first name, last name, and email. No problem. That's great. Favorite flavor of cake. Take a look at this. If we come in here, I have this favorite flavor of cake property. It has just some cake flavors in it. And if you look at the spreadsheet data, you can tell literally I was just going really fast trying to make this spreadsheet for you before Inbound, and I was not careful, right? These are just typos. These are very simple typos. And we can come through and we can map these, right? When it says chocolate, what I actually mean is chocolate. And we can do these one at a time. This manual mapping is really useful if you have like an abbreviations situation, right? Inside your CRM, state names in the United States are fully spelled out, but in your spreadsheet, they are abbreviations. You can just come in here and say, every time you see MA, we're going to map that to Massachusetts, right? For a situation like this, where you have just simple typos, I highly recommend this auto fix errors button. I'm going to click it. Look how fast it is. Boom, it fixed it. And so that is great, right? It did a great job. It mapped it exactly the way I wanted. And now that error is resolved. So that's super useful. Here, I'm importing a shirt size thing. And I don't have a shirt size property. but I need to create one, obviously. So what I can do is create new property, shirt size, and look how it's going to help me through this. It's going to scan the 1,000 rows, and it's going to say what you probably want is a drop-down select that has these options. And I go, yeah, that looks great. We can review this. We can come through and make sure these options are what I want. Maybe I want to spell them out so it's extra small and medium instead of just the letters, or maybe I want to leave it like this, but I could just go ahead and create that property and it'll map it to it. Super cool, super helpful. Love the importing tool. Those are just some subtle things that are pretty helpful to you. Now let's talk about integrations. So if we leave this import and we come over to the integration section of the settings page, HubSpot's app marketplace, which you can get to under this marketplace dropdown, has more than 1,700 apps in it now. It's a lot. It's great. You should definitely spend some time looking through that. A subset of those are powered by our two-way, our bi-directional real-time sync engine called Data Sync. Not all of the integrations are powered by this, but those that are really great. And I want to just show you some things that you should know as an admin about Data Sync. So if we're coming in and looking at our connected apps, Square happens to be one where you can where it's powered by Data Sync. And the way Data Sync works, I'll go ahead and delete this one that I created during inbound. If we set up our sync, what you're going to do is select an object on one side, have it mapped to an object on the HubSpot side. You can choose whether this is 2-direction or 1-direction. And then now here you need to understand that Data Sync is theoretically an Operations Hub feature. Even if you don't have Operations Hub, you can still set up these integrations. You're just going to see fewer options here. So some of this field mapping stuff is going to be a little limited if you don't have Operations Hub Starter, at least. Some of these other things may not appear, but in general, you're still going to be able to go through, create this, and set this all up. Now, the thing that I really want you to know with Data Sync that is so cool and fairly new, just the last couple months, is if you make this one direction, right? Basically, we're saying we're going to take our Square customer data, we're going to drop that into our HubSpot contacts database. You as an admin are well within your rights to want to know what will happen before you turn this on, right? And historically, all you could do was turn on the sync and then get the report of the number of records that failed, the number that updated, and decide whether or not you made a big mistake. Well, what you can do now is click Run Test Sync. And if any of you are watching this who are at inbound, this is the button that made me say, they moved my button. It wasn't here. It's back now. Anyway, I may have been that Wi-Fi issue I was having. If you know, you know. But you can click this Run Test Sync button. And what will happen is it'll get stuck in a loading cycle. No, here it goes. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, this button is back, but it does not seem to be working. Anyway, in an ideal world, what will happen is it will show you an output as though you had turned the sync on. When you turn the sync on, it tells you, here it goes, how many will sync, how many will fail, how many will be excluded. And if any of these numbers are not what you would expect, right? If you're seeing a lot of failing records, great, you have not turned on this sync yet. You are just simulating a sync, and you can go fix the things that are broken before you actually turn on. This test sync is going to give you a lot more confidence in turning that integration on. Once everything's ready, you turn it on for real, everything starts syncing, and off to the races you go. So that is pretty cool. That's still running. We'll just let it run. So that's all about data sources. Let's talk about data access. A lot of things have happened with users and permissions in the last year or so. We're going to have to go pretty quickly through this section, but I just want to give you a brief overview. So if you come into the users and teams section of HubSpot, this is where you manage your users and teams. You can see the users listed here. As you're implementing, as you're bringing people in as users to HubSpot, these tabs at the top should really guide the main things you're thinking about. Users are just the people you're giving access to HubSpot in one regard or another. Seats is where you're going to manage your seats. So Sales Hub and Service Hub have certain features that are seated features. Depending on how you set up your billing, you'll have a certain number of seats. And this is where you can divvy them up and reassign them and take them away from people and give them to different people as needed. You can also see how many you have left over that you're not using, and that can maybe help you right-size your bill or bring on more users, whatever makes the most sense for you. Teams are groups of users, and this is really powerful. In general, your teams are probably going to align with your actual organizational teams, right? You might have a sales team and a service team here in HubSpot. But the thing you as admin should be thinking about is the way this affects people's access to things. And there's two ways you really need to think about this. The first is just, if someone is on a team, then when you're setting up their individual permissions for accessing different parts of HubSpot, you're going to have a few different options. So in general, HubSpot has three main options for most things, right? So like for contacts, you have view access, edit access, and delete access. And you know, if you don't have access to view things, you're definitely not going to have access to edit or delete it. If you do have view, you can choose whether or not you have edit, and you have to have edit in order to have delete, right? These are related to each other. But there's another direction that you can think about these if people are on teams. And when you're giving view and edit and delete access, you'll have three options. One is owned only, meaning you can only view or edit or delete the records that you actually are set as the owner on. The other is team, which means you can view or edit or delete any records that are assigned to a member of the team you're on, your HubSpot team. And then third is everything, right? Regardless of ownership, you can view or edit or delete anything. So you may, you know, certain users, most users, you probably don't want to give access to delete things, but you want to give them access to view and edit. Maybe you give them ability to edit only the records they own, but view all the records owned by their team, right? These are just the kinds of distinctions you as an admin need to be thinking about. That's way one to think about this. The second way is primary and secondary teams, which I believe may be an enterprise feature. If you do the primary and secondary team thing, this is going to be really powerful, particularly if you have people who are supporting a team in one way or another. So imagine you have a sales team. This is your, Northwest Territory sales team or whatever, and they have reports, right, for how many deals they close or how they're performing against their goals or whether they're going to achieve quota or what the sales forecasts. These kinds of things you might have broken down by user, right? Well, certainly their manager, you would want to have access to these reports. And maybe any marketers who are supporting them with lead generation and stuff, you would want to have access on reports. But you don't want the managers or the marketers to be receiving an item on the bar chart for deals closed this month by team member, right? You want that to just be the core sales team. So the core sales team would be the primary team. The managers and the marketers you would add as secondary team members, and then they would not be included in those kinds of reports. For example, there are other things too. Lead rotation action in workflows only sends things to primary teams, that kind of thing. Permission sets, if you are the sort of company that is hiring at a pretty steady velocity, every month you're onboarding new people to HubSpot, you'll probably really benefit from setting up permission sets, right? I have one for account executive. I have one for BDR. Every time we hire a BDR, we know we're going to give them the BDR permission set, right? That is great if you're at that velocity. If you're not at that velocity, the thing I recommend that you do is if you have one salesperson and you know their access is just, you got it set up perfectly. Now you're hiring another salesperson and you want them to have that same kind of access. You can just come here and say, copy permissions to new users. And then all the new users you add here, put their email addresses in, their permissions are going to start with the user you selected here. You can just copy them. I think that's a really useful tool. And then presets is basically an admin playground for user stuff. If you come in to create a preset, you can select a homepage, which is where people will land, where in HubSpot they'll land when they log in, right? You can make that any part of HubSpot. You can choose their default dashboard, so when they view reports, which dashboard should count first. Set their language, their date and number format. You can set an email signature if you want to have some consistency there. And then you can also select a notification profile if there's a certain starting point you want to give them for notifications. The thing that's important to remember with presets is all of these are a starting point for a user when you add them, but they are able to edit all of this. They can go into their settings and change their homepage. They can select a different dashboard as default. They can edit their email signature. They can turn notifications on and off. The thing you're going for here is just helping them have a good start. So that's kind of user things that are worth knowing. It would be great if we had time to talk about reporting today, but honestly, I'm not the right guy to teach you about reporting anyway. If you stick around for my troubleshooting session, which I also hope to record a video for, you will quickly understand why I cause trouble in reports. I do not build reports. But this cheat sheet I made for you is going to help you track down all the different reports and analytics tools and things inside of HubSpot. It tells you which tools have reporting built in, which data sources you can use inside like the custom report builder, which just got campaign data today, the day I'm recording this. So maybe I need to update that. And then it'll also help you decide which reporting tool to use if you're thinking of building a custom report. Let's move on to our core hubs. So marketing, sales, service. When it comes to implementing Marketing Hub, the main thing I want you to think of is just plugging things in, getting everything connected. You know, if you want to do social publishing, you got to get your social accounts connected to HubSpot. If you want to send emails, you got to get your sending domain connected to HubSpot. If you want to do ads, you got to get your ad accounts connected to HubSpot, right? And then once you do that, you're going to start connecting those assets you build to each other in things like campaigns, right? So that's really cool. I mentioned CTAs here because CTAs has gotten an overhaul. It now has smart content again, which is awesome. Multi-step forms, I think, is the most exciting thing happening in Marketing Hub right now. And the main thing I want to call it here, more than how exciting it is just an interesting position you as an admin are going to be in for a little bit during this transition time. So if you're new to HubSpot, you may not be aware, Forms is one of the first and oldest and most established tools inside of HubSpot, but lately it has been showing its age. And the Forms product team, instead of making minor updates to it, has completely reimagined our form builder so that now when you click create form, you're given two options. The new form editor, which is awesome, gives you multi-step things. I'll show you that in just a minute. Or the legacy form editor, which is the older version. And you may be wondering, why not just use the new one all the time? And the answer is, not all the functionality of the old one has ported over yet. The new one has a bunch of cool new features that the old one doesn't have. I mentioned multi-step, right? You start out and it's multi-step by default, and you can add steps in between. Once you've got your steps all set up, you can do a bunch of logic, like when certain fields are filled in with a particular value. Do you want to show or hide fields on subsequent steps? Do you want to skip to a particular step? Or at the end, when the form is submitted, do you want to redirect to a HubSpot page, external URL, or meeting link? I announced these features last year at Inbound, but they were for Sales Hub Enterprise only. Now they are in Marketing Hub Pro and Enterprise also. So if you have Marketing Hub Pro or Enterprise, you can now redirect in these same ways. That's very exciting. So the new form builder is awesome. It's currently in beta, and it will ultimately get all the features the old form builder have, I expect. But it's not there yet. So some limitations are data sources. Right now, you can use contact properties and a limited set of company properties. But if you want like a support form that creates a ticket when it's submitted, that is not yet there in the new form builder. So just as you're thinking about building forms, if you're implementing HubSpot from the ground up, the long-term view is that you should be using the new form builder when possible. But the reality of today is that the new form builder doesn't have some pretty core functionality that you may need. And so you might want to build some of your forms in that old form builder just to make sure they're functioning the way you want. So that's what I have to say about Marketing Hub. Sales Hub, in general, your focus should absolutely be your deal stages. When you first set up HubSpot, you got a Sales Hub, you got to start with your deal stage. So if we go to deals, if you haven't seen it, I'll show you real quick what it looks like. We will go to deals. And what you get here is a Kanban board where your deals are displayed visually. You can drag and drop them through the steps of your sales process. That's what these columns represent, or should represent. By default, they represent kind of a generic sales process that is probably sort of like yours, but not really. And you as an admin need to make sure as early as possible, preferably before you put any sales users in here, that your pipelines are set up to represent the actual steps of your sales process. You got to get the names in here, the order, the number of stages. Deal probability feeds into some reports, so that's important. Conditional stage properties, pipeline rules, some of these things we'll get to more in the optimizing stage. I don't think it's as important to get those set up right away, but you've got to get at least the names and the number of stages set up right if you want this pipeline to be at all useful to either your sales team who are trying to move deals forward and giving them sort of a prescriptive process to follow, or you're reporting on the back end so you can tell how you're doing and what your forecast is likely to be. So start here, focus your efforts here. There are lots of cool things inside of Sales Hub that you can do in addition to this, but if your deal stages aren't set up right, none of the rest of it will really matter, so focus your efforts there. Service Hub is completely reimagined in 2024. As of spring last year, it's got a bunch of cool new stuff. It's always had this conversations inbox, which still exists, but now there's a full help desk experience where you can even connect phone numbers and route calls to different teams and things. Knowledge base tool has gotten some cool new features. It's much more like our CMS editor. If you want to edit text styling or colors, you can now do that, fully customize your knowledge base. And then the customer success workspace is, to me, the most exciting new thing in Service Hub. I didn't even mention, but on my Sales Hub slide, I mentioned that there was a sales workspace. It looks very much like this customer success workspace. So let me just show you this one. What you get is a summary page where you have some to-dos and your schedule. You can embed reports here, which is super cool. On the sales one, your reps are going to get some guided actions, encouraging them to do certain things, reach out to someone, update this meeting with an outcome, that kind of thing. Then over here, you have your portfolio, which is basically your book of business. And the thing that you as an admin really need to do for your customer success team to make sure they're seeing the right thing here is click this little workspace settings button and come and look at this. Select the object you use to represent your accounts. By default, this is companies. For most of you, imagine companies is the right choice. You can leave it there. But if you are using a custom object, right, pets and num-nums are here, you can select that instead. And then that portfolio page will show a list of those objects instead of a list of companies. Then you need to select the proper owner company. Again, this defaults to the default company owner property or the whatever owner property on your custom object. But I have created, a success owner custom property. And if that's what you use, make sure you select that here so that that screen is filtered to the person who's actually viewing it. And then for renewal date, you need to create a custom renewal date property. If you've done that, you can select that here so that that can be displayed there also. And then you can also set up health scores. This is something I'll cover more in the optimizing session, but it's just good for you to know that health scores is a thing you can do here to give your CS reps some guidance as to which accounts they should be focusing on. So that's Service Hub. Let's move on to the stuff that's more niche and new. Commerce Hub is incredible. And what I said at Inbound was, I'm sure there are sessions about Commerce Hub happening right now, and I hope you can go find them this week and sit on them because there's cool things happening, and I don't have time to cover it here. Now that I'm on YouTube, I suppose I could go into it, but honestly, I think Commerce Hub is a topic that is broad enough to merit a full session. And I'm sorry I don't have time to do that here. But really, just check it out. If you're using Stripe or if you're thinking about using something like Stripe, check out HubSpot. We can process payments. We can give you payment links. We can do recurring billing through invoices. We can manage subscriptions. We got a lot of different things in here. We've got an accounting integration with QuickBooks that uses data sync. It's that real-time two-way sync. So it's pretty cool. If you are not doing any sort of online commerce stuff, this is a great place to get started. If you want to just offer like a paid meeting or some paid content or something, paid events, this is a good way to dabble in that world. And I definitely think it's worth you as an admin exploring to see if it's a good fit for you. Operations Hub was created for you admins, and you admins uniquely understand the value of it when you see it. I just want to call out a few things here. So this screenshot is the data quality command center. If you have Operations Hub, you can come in here and you're going to see a lot of cool things in terms of what's going on with your data. And you can drill in and see other things that are happening. This is just a good area for you to keep your eyes on. And you can now set up data monitoring and get proactive notifications for when things change. So you don't actually have to check this page every day. You still could, you maybe still should, but you'll be notified when things change. That's really powerful. We also have some data quality automations, both in workflows and just on the index pages. And paired with data sync, that is very powerful, right? So I connected Square. Maybe my Square data, everything's in all caps and that flows into HubSpot and it's going to make a mess. But data quality can automatically fix capitalization issues, fix location issues. And then data sync means that now cleaned up data will flow back into Square. So not only do we get data in HubSpot, but the data inside HubSpot and Square or any other data sync app are all improved just by being connected to Operations Hub, which is awesome. There are also some added workflow. You can create custom workflow things. You can do things with webhooks if you have Operations Hub. You can extend reports with data sets, which very exciting news. Data sets used to just be Operations Hub Enterprise. It's now come down to Operations Hub Pro. And in fact, all Pro users, even if you don't have Operations Hub, now have a lightweight version of datasets with templated datasets. Highly encourage you to check that out. Datasets is here under data management. You come to datasets. I have Operations Hub Enterprise, so you're seeing features here that you wouldn't have if you're just a non-Operations Hub Pro user, but definitely come check it out, play around with it. It's a powerful base for you to build your reports on. And then Operations Hub Enterprise has also had a Snowflake data share where you can take your HubSpot data and dump it into Snowflake to run queries and things. That is still there, but now in beta, we can do the same thing for AWS S3 and Google BigQuery. So if you're using these tools and you want your HubSpot data in there, check out these betas, check out Operations Hub Enterprise. It's going to be probably a pretty good fit for you. Content Hub has a lot of really cool features. Content Hub just came out this spring. Things like remixes are blowing people's minds. Case studies just launched this week. That's awesome. But the thing you need to know about implementing Content Hub, because these features are really optimized focused, I'll cover them more in the optimized section. But the thing you need to know about implementing it is don't buy Content Hub. Don't do it. Unless for some reason you want Content Hub, but don't want Marketing Hub, what you should do is buy this package called Marketing Plus, which gives you all the features of Marketing Hub and all the features of Content Hub for just slightly more than the cost of Marketing Hub, certainly less than the cost of buying both hubs separately. So, I mean, if you want Content Hub for some reason and you're not going to have Marketing Hub, which I don't fully understand the use case, but it's imaginable, fine, go ahead and buy Content Hub. But if you have Marketing Hub, or if you're buying Marketing Hub, just buy Marketing Plus, get Content Hub basically as a bonus at a very steep discount. Do not pay full price for Content Hub. And now we're at the end. Let's talk about Breeze. I figure the most helpful thing I can tell you about Breeze is pricing and packaging. So I've done my best to research that here and show it. Breeze Intelligence is mostly a data enrichment tool. Buyer Intent is this new tool that's fully free. Let me just show you that real quick. It's under the marketing header here. You can come to Buyer Intent. It's this beta. And what you want to do is start with the configuration. You're going to set up your target market, the industry, company keywords, employee range, whatever you want to put in here. And then you're going to choose the paths that are intent, right? So put your pricing page in here, put some other things in here. You can put in pages to exclude. Really exciting is the fact that you can put in recency, like a rolling range here. If someone looked at your pricing page today, that's high level intent. If they looked at it a year ago and haven't been back, maybe lower intent, right? So you can set these things up. Make sure your HubSpot tracking code is on your website. If it's not a HubSpot website, you need to add this manually. Then what you can do is you can come here and you can see a list of companies that have been visiting your website. It'll be enriched with, Breeze data, I think. And then you can choose whether or not you want to see just the ones that are in your target markets or just the ones that are showing intent. So you can see a real list of companies that are actually in your target market, showing intent, add them to the CRM with a single click from right here, and off you go. Super cool. Form shortening is in Starter, and I mentioned at the beginning, basically this just uses Clearbit data to fill in empty form fields, right? So you could have a form that has like 80 fields on it, and I come to step 1 of this multi-step form, put in my name and email address, and then I click next, and quickly in the background, we will check and see what information we have about the company, about the contact, fill in those fields, hide them, so that now I'm just asked, instead of filling in 80 fields, to fill in the 5 that we didn't have data for, right? Super awesome combination of features there. And then enrichment is a new credits-based thing. So if we come over to companies, we have enrichment for both contacts and companies, though I hasten to say we are not going to tell you anyone's email address or their phone number. That's how we identify them. You say, I have this person's email address. What can you tell me about them? We will enrich them. You can't just say, hey, here's a company, give me everybody's email address. That's not the game we're in. But what you can do is on a bulk level, you can select a bunch of companies and click enrich records. Or if you're looking at an individual record, you can come in here and click the actions button and choose enrich record. And what will happen is we will check our database and we will tell you which ones we have values for that that are different from your value. So if yours are blank, or if you have a value other than what we have, you can check the boxes next to the ones you want and then choose enrich record. For you as an admin, you're going to manage all this in the new data enrichment section, which is down here at the bottom. And yeah, if you were in my inbound session, these toggle switches were not showing. They're back now. Hey, this is how we expected it to look. Okay, up here at the top, you can see credit usage. So I'm going to buy on a monthly basis a set number of credits. This will tell me how many I've used, how well I'm doing for this month. One important thing to note is that credits don't roll over from month to month for whatever reason. So definitely use them up. Don't save them up. Down here, you're going to control, do we want to automatically enrich new records? So when I create a record, do you want it to automatically be enriched, or do you want it to be done manually, which is the process I just showed you? And then you can choose whether to continuously enrich existing records. If we find new information about them, we add it in. Now, there's a nuance here that I really want you to understand. If you are looking at a company record and you enrich, for example, its industry field or its location field, once you enrich it, as long as you don't edit that field, we will keep that up to date. If we find new information in that field, we will enrich it. That does not count against your credits. What this continually enrich existing records means is if we find some new value, we didn't previously know the industry of this company, now we do, we can feed that in, we can update additional fields that you didn't manually enrich as we find that data. So you have separate toggle switches for both contacts and companies, and this is just where you as an admin are going to manage that stuff. Breeze Copilot, as I said, is ChatSpot. It's now in app. It's right here. You know, you can chat with it. You can ask it things. It'll draft emails and things for you. It's a really helpful little buddy. And then Breeze agents, content agent and customer agent have been around. Prospecting agent and social agent are new. And coming. They aren't even released yet. But these are good things for you as an admin to be aware of. They are things that are coming. Keep an eye on HubSpot tips and tricks, and I will let you know when they are out. But not a lot of immediate action here for you to explore. Just look at this new Breeze item in your navigation and come see what you have access to. So that is it. That's what I've got. That's not relevant to you because inbound is over, but this is relevant to you. I every Tuesday run a user group for admins. Scan this QR code to see our upcoming events and register for the ones that interest you. Thank you so much for watching. Grateful to have you all here. This has been Implementing HubSpot. The next session will be Optimizing HubSpot, and I hope to see you there. Bye.